Welcome, everyone, to the Modern Sacred Women's Work podcast. My name's Abby Payne, your co host, and we're excited to have conversations around what it means to be a modern woman, reconnecting with our sacred work as feminine beings, rebalancing the masculine feminine energies.
I love it. I'm Chelsea Henderson, your other co-host, and thank you so much for joining us for our messy, informal conversations where we just explore all that is so important to us and what we think is important for the world. Thank you and enjoy. Hello. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Modern Sacred Women's Work podcast. Thank you for joining us. All right, so Abby and I were just chatting, and I think today we're going to continue with our she economy discussion and hone in a little bit on some things we've been talking about together personally, about holding all the emotions around it, and also maybe a little bit about the geography of your experience, and potentially get into some rituals about it. So, on that note, how are you today?
I am doing wonderful. Hi, everybody. I just got home from a trip to Portland, Oregon last night. We got in late. I've never been to Portland before. We are actually moving there in 6 weeks from Salt Lake City to Portland, Oregon. We've been in Salt Lake for a year. Which is some of what we're going to be talking about today. It's like how it matters where you live and the culture that you surround yourself with in terms of, how you feel about yourself, how you feel about your face and your body and your vessel that you're in, depending on how other people in your culture are treating their vessel. So we're going to talk about all that. But yeah, I'm feeling good.
Good. I'm glad. I am so excited about your expansion into Portland. I have community there and have been going there for years, and I love it there. And it seems like such a haven. I think there's energies in different places, and that's one thing that I always feel there. And you kind of brought this up, and I liked it, is that there's just a comfort with just being there a lot more than other places. And I think that's really fascinating. Like you talked about seeing just more natural bodies. And, there's an energy there of kind of like, fuck the system. And I wonder if maybe that's a part of that kind of FU that I never really thought about until you said that's just kind of part and parcel to that whole just pushback on the system. And I wonder how you felt about that, like reflecting on that and moving into that. Like, does that feel like part of that kind of, pushback?
Absolutely. It feels so ingrained there. And just to give everybody some context, so Salt Lake City, for anyone who doesn't know, is the plastic surgery capital of the United States. More than Miami, more than Los Angeles, more than California. Salt Lake City has the most plastic surgery.
Which is
it's crazy. I did not know that when I moved here until you get here. We have huge billboards along the highway of before and after pictures of people's faces. We have, life's too short, get the lips in huge billboard letters staring you at the face. And everywhere you go, it's frozen foreheads and big lips and long hair and extensions. I've never felt so insecure in my life about my wrinkles, and I would like to say that I'm above that and that it didn't affect me. But on this 5-day trip to Portland, I felt so much more comfortable and more beautiful. And I loved looking out at everybody's faces in the coffee shops and just seeing different faces. It kind of shook me how here in Salt Lake, you look around and you see the same face. Obviously, people's faces still look different, but you see the big lips, the flat forehead, the spray tan, the blonde hair, perfectly curled. And how I just loved seeing big bodies, small bodies, tall bodies, short bodies, mullets, purple hair, blue hair, and just everything in between. Big noses, small noses, thin lips, big lips. Like, I love the variety of humanity. And when I was there, I just felt more like I can let my stomach out in this coffee shop. Like I can fucking relax. I can go braless and go get some food from the place down the road, and I don't have to put makeup on. And how much that it just felt like in Portland, it's very much like, I don't know if it's directly connected to like fuck the system. Yeah. But I bet it is. You know, I not having been there for very long, but I feel like it's just so ingrained. Their culture there is so about acceptance and
that's
comfortability.
Well, that for sure, right? And I love that. So that's interesting to me though, because one thing that I'm thinking about when you're saying all this is that like, and I brought this up in the intro, there's the emotional space. Like one of the things I'm not going to say I struggle with it. I'm going to say I think about it a lot in myself. My reaction, right? Like this came up for me in a conversation recently where I made a comment about Elon Musk having a small penis. And my friend was like, you're reducing him to a small. And I was like, yeah, I am actually. You're totally right. Because in every job I've ever had where a man was in a position of power, he grabbed my ass, grabbed my tits. I had my tits slapped once, a kiss forced on me, a penis taken out and put on me. Maybe this is me. Maybe I'm asking for it, like they say in the courts, right? Like maybe that's my flirty personality or something. And
definitely
I don't mean
not.
that self-deprecatingly.
Definitely not. Yeah, self-deprecatingly.
I mean that truly, like I don't know what the karma is there, right? I know that that's not every woman's experience, but it's a lot of women's experience. And so yes, there is a part of me that is so deeply rageful that I'm like, this is what I have that works against you. Your penis is small and doesn't function, and that's the thing that hurts you the most. So I am going to do that to you. And I don't love that part of myself. Of course, it feels honestly like allowing a purge that feels like I'm being self-indulgent, right? It feels good to me and it hurts everyone else around me. So that's not cool, right? Like my friend, I think in that moment was trying to say, hey, like that's a little intense for me. And like, maybe she could have just said that, but she didn't, right? And so, but it was a good reflection to be like, hey, interesting. This is where I feel like I'm left a lot of times because I feel defensive about what I've been pushed into in the life that I've lived, in the society that I've lived. And the way that I'm tying that back to what you were saying is that I feel hyper conscious about not doing that to others. Either I'm just being completely self-indulgent and I'm like, 2 middle fingers up, your penis is small, like, haha, like, which is not kind at all. Or I'm trying very hard to be conscious. So that's my work, right? Finding that neutrality more often. I don't need to be at one extreme or the other. But I wonder if we feel accepted in a place like Portland, do we feel accepted because it's more aligned with us? And what if I was the person who did choose to have the flat forehead and the injected lips and the injected cheeks and all of those things, and I wanted to go there? Would I then feel not accepted, right? And in a place like Salt Lake City, those are human beings too. What's the story there? But like Katie Smith said this to us, and I was so inspired by it, of like, that's their journey to choose to do those things with their bodies. And it is the non-judgment that is the work. And so I guess I want to talk about that. I want to hear what you have to say about that, because that's a real struggle for me to not just be like, this makes me uncomfortable, it makes me feel excluded, and it makes me feel not good enough. And so I'm doing 2 middle fingers up and telling you all you have small penises. How can we all be working in that space? And what does that mean? I would love to explore that, because I think it is part of this conversation of like, all these things are going to exist. And so how do we hold them all and be as accepting as possible? I know that was a lot, but what do you think?
Well, what comes to mind is what one of our friends texted us. She's a listener of the podcast, and she was listening to the She Economy episode. And we love hearing from people who are listening to the podcast, by the way.
Yes,
if anyone
we do.
ever wants to shoot us a text and say, I listened and I loved it, it means a lot. So thank you for anyone who supports us in that way.
Absolutely.
She was talking about the rage that's there. And this deep, like, feminine rage where I believe she's in her 50s, somewhere in there. But being around women her age, talking about aging gracefully, talking about menopause and that transition, and yet they're all injected with things and their foreheads don't move. And how there's that rage of, like, don't tell me how to take care of my body in menopause if you're, like, not walking the walk. And yes, everybody's path is different. But I just wanted to speak to the rage because I've also been getting a lot of stuff on, like, my Instagram feed or whatever of people just underestimate the amount of rage that women have held for millennia. That, like, and it, you know, while it's saying this, the background is, like, women in the Renaissance period, women all throughout history who are doing the laundry, churning the butter, cleaning out the stove and the fireplace, not getting paid for any of their labor. And there's a lot of rage. I feel a lot of rage in me. And I do feel it towards men. I feel it towards men in charge, men in suits. Yeah. And when we were getting on the plane to come back here, this might be unrelated. I'm a little bit, like, coming off of all my travels, so hopefully this all makes sense. But walking through how you have to walk past first class to get on the plane.
Yeah, I know, my favorite part,
And I always think the first class people are going to look like different humans. And they don't. They're young, they're old, they're skinny, they're fat, they're on their phones, just like us. They're the same. And I imagine that they're going to look like movie stars, first class. And they don't. They're just humans.
Spend their money differently.
They just spend their money differently. And another thing I'd say on that is when we were getting on the plane, we were talking about the Botox, me and my husband, Zach. And you could see several people were heading back to Salt Lake City and definitely had work done. You could just see it. It was very obvious. And it was so different from what we'd seen all throughout Portland. And Zach said, you know, people in Portland spend money on their appearance too. They just spend it in a different way. And they spend it on trendy haircuts and color and tattoos and piercings and that $500 vintage denim jacket. And, you know, they spend a good bit of money maybe on their appearance, but they are trying to portray a different, maybe more of, like, their actual authentic self as opposed to what other people want to see.
I love that. I love your husband and I love his insights. They're helpful, really helpful. That's a great point. I think about that here in Denver. You know, you'll go to a Michelin star restaurant and there are people coming in their leggings and their Patagonia, like, sweatshirts, and their outfits cost hundreds of dollars, right? So they're speaking to, I can afford to be here, right? Which I think that's a big part of the, you know, that's the first class thing, right? Like, anytime I've ever ridden in first class has been because I was working for a place that flew me first class, and I would be like, oh, don't look at me, like, because I kind of just think it's a farce. Like, you're getting a microwave meal and some shitty champagne. The thing we really care about is the space, right?
Exactly.
To an aisle versus 3 is pretty nice. You know, that's nice to not have someone's elbow in my face. But outside of that, it's a status thing. I remember one time sitting next to this woman who just went on and on about how her husband, they didn't have enough first class seats and he had to sit back there with everybody else, and she wanted to bring him a meal. And it was like, bitch, I don't care about you. I don't care about your husband. I don't care about this shitty microwave meal. Do you want to give him mine? Like, what are we talking about? And also, why are you talking to me? Because, like, we're not friends. And, like, your troubles with this whole experience feel like you're just really, really trying to illustrate that this is the class that you belong in. And for me, I feel like in my attempt to love myself and humanity, and I stress attempt because it is a daily practice, it does not come easily to me. I mean, you talk about rage. I feel like I am rage. Like that's my default. That's where I want to be. And I'll say completely self-indulgent. It just feels really good because the disempowerment I've experienced, and I think the disempowerment down my line is coming out and being like, oh, I have the chance to roar like a lioness and attack like a mama bear. Yeah, I want to do that. That feels awesome. And I have to check myself because it's not kind to scare other people and to make them feel less than. I'm just, I don't believe in it, but I find myself doing it because it's a very addictive feeling, right? Mm-hmm. And so in that attempt to love myself and humanity in that way, I think those are some of the things that humans do in a material and capitalist world that feeds that. They're feeding their own self-love, right? That's a way to be like, I have value, I'm worthy, I'm lovable because I have a status, I have a thing, I have this. And that's the system, right? That's not even necessarily their fault. But
I think that people are trying to fit in.
Yes.
That's what I got from Zach's comment of like, people in Portland spend money on their appearance just as much, maybe not just as much because plastic surgery is really expensive, but they spend money on their appearance, and it's a very trendy town. It's,
totally.
And I think we're all really trying to fit in. And if you move to Salt Lake City, the amount of pressure I felt to get Botox has been more than anywhere else I've lived because it's so the norm. And it's hard to be the only one with a mobile forehead in Trader Joe's. And so you're just like, I feel other than, I feel outside the group. And that just in our psychology as humans, that is going to trigger like, how do I feel part of the group? How do I feel safe? And then in Portland, like, am I going to feel like, man, I should get the trendy haircut, or should I do something different? Do I just want to be the girl with the mousy brown hair? At least I have the septum piercing. I'm like, I got that going for me.
Let's talk about
I have no plans on getting a mullet right now. I don't think it would look very good on me.
Your hair is really gorgeous, and it's not mousy.
Thank you.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
I love that you talk about that, though. That softened me in that moment. I can feel that in my body. In these last couple of weeks, I've felt like just the exhaustion of it all. It just kicks in and hits me from time to time. And by that, I mean every couple of weeks. And it's just that exhaustion of like, I just don't, this is hard. This is hard being a human. It's hard being a woman. It's hard being a wife. It's hard being a friend. It's hard being a mother. Like, it's hard to care. Like, I understand now. Like, we talk about the Matrix, but I get it. Like, whatever pill they took, like, I get not wanting to take that pill or to sell out your friends to go back in, right? I've probably said that on here before, but like, I do get it at this point in my life because I get really exhausted and I feel overwhelmed. And I think my emotional defense mechanism to that, to being a human who wants to fit in, that doesn't want to be othered, has felt othered in those ways, over time. I mean, there's nothing like having a man assume he can just kiss you when he wants to, even though you don't even really know each other that well, that makes you feel like an outside, like it makes you feel like a piece of meat, a property, right? Like not a person with integrity. And there's something about that makes me want to other in response. I want to diminish and burn their houses down because I'm very, very human, and that's my defense mechanism. And my practice is still so humble, and I think at it, in early phases, even though I'm older in years. So, and again, that might be self-deprecation. I don't know. That's also a big part of it. I'm either raging out or belittling myself. So I think this is one of those areas where I can really look inward to say, what do you need here, and address that. But what you're saying is really beautiful and creates some tenderness in me of like, they just want to fit in. And Zach is totally right.
It's that right versus left. It's that us versus them that is so divisive. And I can so fall into it as well. Zach can very much fall into it, which he's very aware of, in terms of, those people over there, the people with all the money, the people who have, all the cattle and all those things. And then you'll meet an actual rancher from Montana, and he's actually such a nice guy. And then you're like, dang it, no, I want you to suck. Yeah. I want you to be rich. I want you to be evil, and it turns out you don't have much money.
Yeah.
And you're such a nice guy. It's like you meet these people at weddings, where suddenly you're mixed all up with someone else's people, and you meet people you would have never met, and you're actually sat at a table with them, and you're talking to them, and you're like, oh, okay, there's less of this us versus them, but it's so easy as like a psychological trick to feel empowered or safe to do that. Even another thought from Portland is I was in Mount Tabor Park, which is a beautiful,
love that park,
fucking park. I was obsessed with it, and I was by myself because Zach was doing his own run, and I was walking, and there was this man in a black hoodie, black pants, hood up. It was drizzling a little bit, and he was just kind of walking by the playground, and I was right where I needed to walk, where the path was, and I was like, I'm scared of this guy. And like, is he gonna try and like say something to me? Is he gonna be like, what's up, sexy? Is he gonna, try to engage with me? And he puts his foot on the stool and starts doing Bulgarian split squats. And so I was like, okay, this guy is probably not trying to. I'm like, you're doing Bulgarian split squats.
Protecting himself
Good for you.
While he works out.
I'm like, you're putting your hood up because it's raining. And then I was like, okay, so he's just kind of maybe doing a workout. And I found myself thinking, Abby, he's more afraid of you than you are of him. You are a woman in Portland, and he is a man. And in that city, I mean, I don't know, I'm just making generalizations, but in that city, it's very about inclusivity and respect and being a cisgender white man alone and seeing a woman walking towards you, you're like, don't fuck this up, don't be weird, don't engage her. What should I do? I'll just start doing Bulgarian split squats.
Do squats.
Myself, I'm like, it's like a wild animal. I'm so afraid of him, but I'm like, just like a black bear or a cougar or whatever, I'm like, he's more afraid of me than I am of him. He's not my enemy here. Now, if he were to approach me and be like, what's up? Then I'd be like, nope, you are that guy. Yeah. But innocent until proven guilty. Like, he's just in the park, I'm just in the park. And it was just funny, and I walked by him, and he didn't even look at me. I'm like, he's probably thinking, like, don't fuck this up. Just be cool. Don't be weird. Don't make her feel uncomfortable. Don't be that guy. And I hear about this in the gym as well, with girls and guys, where a lot of females that I've talked to, they will, they want to meet a guy, and maybe they have a gym crush.
Yeah.
And they have a guy at the gym who they think is so hot and so sexy, but he never comes up to me. I'm looking at him, and he never comes up to me. I'm like, he's not going to come up to you, because if he's any guy worth having, he's not going to be the guy at the gym that goes up to a woman and says, hey, what's up? Yeah. So you need to potentially go talk to your gym crush. Anyone out there who's listening who has a gym crush, if they're a good guy, they're not going to approach you in the gym. So you need to go talk to them. So there's just like all this us versus them happening, that I think we're all more similar than we think we are.
I know. You're absolutely right.
But why we do that? Yeah, that was a long tangent.
Which is easy for me to see with the people in my life that I've, who are gay, who are transgender, who are people of color. Like, I'm like, I see your oppression. I have seen it in real time. I have seen it historically. I've been told, I've learned all of these things. And then with people who look more like me, I have a friend here in Denver who's in her 70s. Shout out Mary. And she and I will go to dinner sometimes, and I'll find we're like talking shit about like the Central Park moms, because they're like the busy women who like do Pilates, and they have 3.5 children and the white picket fence, and like it's a gross generalization, and I demean the crap out of them. I'm like, dismiss, ugh, like not my people, gross. And then I meet many people from Central Park, and I'm like, you're cool, you're great. Like, it's this like evolutionary, it's ancient, right? I mean, I think when we talked to Carissa, and I'm not sure if that episode will have come out yet, but we talked to a really, really cool woman from San Francisco, and, she talked about this with othering, and that it's like this evolutionary kind of inclination that's old, very old in us, and used to serve and no longer serves. And it's amazing to me that I have been working on my own consciousness and self-awareness for a really long time now. And that still comes up for me. And it doesn't come up with the Black woman or the gay person or, the people that I think are more traditionally othered. It doesn't come up for me with Muslim people. I'm like, cool, you're religious. I'm not. I'm like, awesome. Good for you. Like, hope you do it well, because a lot of people don't. We'll see. Right. Like, that's my level of othering with them. I other the crap out of women that are kind of just like me. And then
exactly. It might be shadow.
Oh, it's so shadow. It's so shadow. I mean, so much of this
I'm
is
the white girl.
Self-worth. Yeah, I don't do that with you, though. I mean,
I don't do it with you either. Yeah. No, but it's so true. I'm like, oh, you and your Lululemon. Who went shopping at Lululemon last week?
Girl.
Me, because homie needs some leggings and like the durability and like we were decked out in Patagonia. Zach had his Patagonia hat, Patagonia sweater, Patagonia backpack, Patagonia duffel bag. I'm like, wow. And he was just like, I support the brand.
Yeah.
Like,
and they're a good brand, right? But there's also something virtuous in that we're trying to be like, they're a good brand and we believe in social consciousness and environmental consciousness. It's also an expensive brand. It's not accessible to everyone. And so, there's always these moments of just that self-reflection of like, gosh, when it comes down to it at the end of the day, I say this all the time. It's one of my favorite stupid sayings, but the call is coming from inside the house. I'm like, this is me knocking at my own door, being like, are you raging out at this generalized Central Park mom in your head who, throws away everything, never composts or recycles, votes Republican because her husband tells her to, like, drives a Tesla? Like, that's not fair. Like, and that's not even real. That woman probably doesn't even exist. And if she does, there's like one of her, and I don't have to be friends with her. Like, it's okay for her to exist. Like, and I think there's something nuanced there about how all things balance if we let them, but that I'm causing imbalance by projecting outward. If I can stay inward and be like, okay, honey, what's going on here? Why do you feel like you got to go get the bat and beat somebody? Like, that's not your reality. Like, you don't live in a world where you have to be so violent and defensive. You have the privilege of safety and love.
It's exhausting internally.
Yes,
like,
exhausting. Yes. Probably why I'm so tired.
Right. Okay, so you and Zach are similar in this. And you've met Zach briefly. Yes. I'm excited for the day that you guys get to know each other even more. But we had a long talk over some Chipotle last night around this topic of
I love my vegan friends who eat Chipotle all the time.
Yeah, beans and rice,
it's
baby.
Strong vegan choice.
It's cheap.
Yeah.
But we were talking about we're really excited to move to Portland because Zach gets so in this us versus them space and moral judgment towards other people. And that inner critic has gotten so loud being here in Salt Lake because it is like so easy to be like, look at all these fuckers with their golf course in the desert.
No, come.
Watering your grass, and they don't recycle glass here. So you just throw it away. If you want to recycle your glass, you have to take it to a place and dump it in a thing. There's so many things. There's no sidewalks. Like it's so easy to critique the city.
To be what it is, right?
Yeah. And the people who inhabit Salt Lake City, with the LDS church and everything, and the religious order and control and the chapels everywhere, it has really made his inner critic very loud and very angry. And we were talking last night over Chipotle. I'm like, I'm excited for you to be in the most bikeable city. Yes. The most, vegan city, the most progressive city, because I hope that inner critic will quiet down a little bit, because there won't be as much to critique, because it wears me out. It wears him out and it wears me out. And I'm like, I love you, And also that energy can just be heavy for me. And so then I don't want to be around you.
I know.
And he's like, I know, I don't want to be around me either. It's exhausting. I'm like, yeah. So why are we living here?
Yeah.
Why are we two vegans, liberal, no Botox people living in this city? And that goes back to what we talked about in the beginning with introducing the topic of where you are matters. And yeah, there's this whole like us versus them psychology. It's hard to know where to put that in the modern world because it's a lot easier. Like Zach and I are moving to our echo chamber. Mm-hmm. We are moving to a place that aligns with almost all of our values. Yeah. And it's going to be just easier for us. But then we have these cities where we have like really conservative cities and really progressive cities. And there continues to be less in the middle.
Diversity.
Yeah.
I know. And is that a good thing? I mean, just because we can make it easier for ourselves, should we?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think about that with the anger. It's like right now in the world, that's where my anger is. I'm not okay with these wars. I'm not okay with this hateful rhetoric, which is hilarious that it incites hate in me because, of course, life is never simple. Yeah,
that's what it does.
And I do see that our species has this incredible potential to use our innovation and our self-awareness and our everything to create something amazing. And instead, right now, it feels like we're really just plummeting toward extinction out of our own weakness and self-indulgence. And I'm just as much a part of that. I mean, yes, I do a lot of things to contribute in a positive sense in terms of my awareness and how I live my life and, all of those things. But if I'm contributing anger, then I don't even know if those things matter, right? Like if I'm just sitting here angry and enraged, what am I really doing?
And so then is it helpful to go to those cities?
Which is
kind of where we, part of where we ended up the conversation with that was, I mean, you have cities in Europe, in the Netherlands, Denmark, Sweden that have some of the highest levels of happiness, some of the lowest levels of depression and suicide. They're very green. They're very progressive. They have free health care. And they are an echo chamber of that. But when you come together over a certain cause, that's also powerful. So it's like, are we moving, to Portland because we just can't be out here in Salt Lake City or in these more conservative places? And I want to contribute my energy and my life and my days to creating a city that feels safer, that feels more inclusive. And I think it can be a beautiful thing. It's just hard to know. I think the US is, I don't know. It just kind of feels like it should be 50 different countries.
Yeah, for sure. It's
too big to be one culture.
It's big.
So to be, what does it mean to be an American?
Yes.
It's, know.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I think even just politically, like a two-party system in such a geographically, population-dense country is insane. I mean, it's insane across the board. I mean, there are not two ways to do anything ever, when you're dealing with more than two people. But it's pretty big. And I think right now we are seeing this division between, two kind of, because we've been shuffled into these two parties, right? It's like you're Republican or you're Democrat. And at this point, I'm not even sure how much of a difference I'm seeing. I get these texts all the time from Democrats, and I'm just like, what? You sound the same as them. It's just like a game, it's kind of gross, and I'm not into it. And like, I don't think any of you guys have a ton of integrity because the system that you're playing in demands that you pretty much relinquish that immediately to succeed. So, there's flaws here, but I think in terms of the scale, every state you go to has a different culture. I've had the privilege of going to a majority of the states in this country, and I find that amazing. That's like, oh yeah, this is like totally different culture. People sound different, people talk different, people act different, the food is different, even the pastimes are different. But I think something that came up when you were talking just now that I think is interesting. And of course, in my current place of just like simmering rage, I maybe want to explore this more. But I think there's also something about a codependent culture like the United States and this like extreme inability to self-soothe and love ourselves that we're seeing across the board in this country. And maybe others, I don't know. I've only ever lived here. That makes me curious about playing with some of these emotions. I know some of the wise women in my life and in the community that you and I share do talk about this. And I think it's pretty powerful that like there's something told to us as women and told to us as Americans to just shut our pretty mouths. And it's not polite to be mean. It's not polite to express that. I mean, that's the reaction I get from people when I express my rage is they're like, ooh, that makes me uncomfortable. That's messy. And I'm like, okay, makes me want to pummel you to the ground. Like,
see, I'm more comfortable with your rage than Zach's rage because you're a woman. I feel like it's more, not to say, Zach, that you're not justified to be angry because you are. But I am like, yeah, sometimes I'm like, get angry. I feel very cathartic when you're enraged, which is maybe not good for you. But
I love you so much.
It feels very like, yes, be enraged. It helps give me some permission to be angry. And it's also kind of adorable in your little Chelsea way.
Thank you.
For you to get pissed off at traffic. I'm like, Chelsea's a fucking badass. She's like, get the fuck out of my way. I'm like, yes, Chelsea.
Until I kill someone or get killed, right? I mean, I think there's
I know. And
also, and I love you so much. Thank you for saying that. It does make me feel more safe and accepted. I have dealt with this a lot in my life. That was a very significant defense mechanism for me. You know, being a young woman who was told to care for others and never taught to care for myself, and then having a sick mother and all of this trauma, you know, I became a rage monster as a defense because it allowed me to not just get trampled over, you know, these men that felt comfortable taking advantage of me physically, or the friends that felt comfortable just plowing over me and not listening to my side of things, or whatever, all the things that happen to us as humans. This was my way. And it's only in recent years that I've been like really challenging myself to develop something deeper, because I am something deeper. I have truly my most natural state that I've ever experienced so far in my 42 years is a nurturing state, a mothering state. But I have had to, and even that's the mother bear thing, right? Sometimes that means you have to get mad and you have to defend yourself and others. And I do hold that space. My concern is the self-indulgence of it, right? The addiction of it. You know, young me that liked to do hard drugs, that's the same feeling that I get when I dip my toes in that water of rage. When I get that like, ooh, I can get big, I can get scary, I can go back and find those men that hurt me and I can annihilate them and I can make fun of their penises and all the things. It's like, right. And it's the stark contrast to the tender, nurturing mother. And there's something in me, maybe it's this culture, maybe it's being a woman, maybe it's just my particular path in life. There's something in me that there's an inner voice that feels like it was influenced externally that says you can't be both. You can't have both. And I think there's something that we're missing about being human right now. You know, you and I talked about this. You said something before we started recording, the felt hat spiritual.
The felt hat spirituality. Yeah, that's me being a little bit of a bitch about the spiritual gurus who wear those felt hats that they buy.
Yeah.
And the hair is like long and curled. And I'm like, I just feel like I know many people who put on the felt hat and now they're the guru, and I'm like, I can't stand it. Anytime I see a felt hat on someone who's leading a workshop at a yoga studio or whatever, and their picture is them with like the felt hat, I'm like, no, I'm not going to that. I just already know that if you have to put that hat on in order to feel, that's me being judgmental, but I'm like, no,
it happens.
Yeah.
But I think that energy, for me, my experience of that is very much the kind of either or. Like the only way to be spiritual, the only way to heal is to just be calm. We have to stay here. We have to meditate. And that's all we do. And it's like, okay, fine. But that also feels limiting, right? Meditate, absolutely. Kumbaya yourself all the way to, wherever and back. Amazing. I am so into all of those modalities, but I think that everything in moderation and everything in balance, right? And so when we, I think there's something that we're almost othering ourselves if I am like, I can't be angry because it's unattractive and people don't like it. And then there's the rage monster in me that's like, I don't fucking care if I make people uncomfortable. Like, bring it. You're uncomfortable. I'm going harder. And it's like, maybe that's me struggling to hold both because I was told, or I feel like I'm telling myself I can't hold both. I can't have both. And I wonder if that's cultural. I wonder, it's like we have to choose Salt Lake City or Portland, right? Like maybe we don't have to choose. Maybe that's part of this kind of increasingly lessening diversity that we're seeing of like, you're going full hog in this way or that way. You're Miami or New York, you're LA or Denver. And it's like, well, what does that even mean, right? Are we just... The echo chamber is nice because it is easy. It does allow us to put less energy into that, right? Like living in a city like Denver, I feel like it actually suits me really well. There's some grittiness, there's some, the urban sprawl of it all. And there's this kind of West, we're kind of getting into the West a little bit here. And then there's also the people, those that are interested in nature and healing and all of that. And it's like, it suits me. But then I go back to Florida and I can't hold it. I'm like, oh my God, this is my home state. And I think it's one of the most beautiful places ever. And I want to burn it to the ground. I can't stand anybody here. And it's like,
well, what you're saying is making me think about that we're a very young country.
Yeah.
And we have no culture.
Yes.
I mean, we were melting pot, whatever, but then assimilation happened where it was like, no, we're not going to teach our kids how to speak native tongue because we want them to only speak English. And we are a country with no real culture. Yeah. We have some, but I think we're figuring it out. I think that we are in that stage where it's like, we're Portland is like, this is the culture, and Florida, this is the culture. And when you grow up in one place and then you grow and change and you're like, it doesn't really fit me anymore. And so you're going to find the place that feels like it resonates. And I think fast forward, another 1,000 years, and it'll be like, just maybe people won't want to leave as much from where they're raised. I don't really know what I'm trying to say, but I know that if you put someone from Spain into Germany, they're going to think, God, they are a little uptight. They're uptight, they're clean, they're on time, they're blunt.
Yeah.
They're proper and put together, but where's the salsa dancing?
Yes.
And vice versa. And they do travel. Europeans travel a lot within Europe, and they experience different cultures. But there's very clear borders of culture in Europe. Yeah. And we are starting to create that here. And I don't know, I feel like it's all probably very natural when it comes to humans and our psychology. Yeah. And we're figuring it out.
That's such a great point. I mean, I think about that a lot politically, right? Like, we are so young, and there's so many people. Like, I mean, I've said this to you before. I love Conan O'Brien. I listen to his podcast. I think he is so funny. I'm sure he is a very, human person and has his own flaws just as much as anyone else. I certainly don't idolize him to that degree, but I would love to be friends with him, right? Or just to sit in a room and fuck around and laugh. Like, I think that is one of the most incredible ways to, revolt keeps coming to my mind, but that's not the word I'm trying to think of. But just the pushback, right? It's like, you've heard this, I've heard this before from, survivors of concentration camps. It's like, they can't take what's in our heads and our hearts, right? And that there's something there about comedy for me that feels that way, of like, this jackass regime that's running this country right now that's what I think of them, right? I think it's a complete and utter farce of like the worst lack of parenting or the worst parenting that's ever happened coming to fruition in these grown humans who are just like, wow, on a public stage. And I think it's harmful and sad and scary and all those things. And for me to laugh and not even go there and not give them my attention just feels so potent and helpful. And I think someone like Conan O'Brien for me really helps to bring that out. And I forgot why the hell I was saying that. So now I'm just talking about Conan for no reason.
You triggered a memory in me that I can share.
Please.
I remember when my mom was a spanker. She was a fan of corporal punishment in that way, just because that's what she learned from her family. Sucks for me. For me, yeah. But I remember as I started to get a little bit older, there was one time where her or my dad was spanking me, and I started to laugh because I felt like if I just don't give in, I don't cry, I don't say, ow, please stop, I'm sorry. I'm just going to laugh even though it hurts. And I think I even said it tickles, even though it didn't. Because I was like, this just makes me feel more empowered in this moment, because I can choose to say, you're not hurting me. You think you're hurting me. You think you have power over me.
Right.
You think you're in control. But actually, in this moment, I can choose to laugh and say, it just tickles. What you're doing is fucking useless. It's not going to work on me anymore. And it was around that age that I think they realized, I think she's getting too old to spank. Because she's like figured out that she could just, she's connecting to her power.
Yes.
And I think shortly after that, the spanking stopped, because it was like, oh, yeah, no, I'm in control here. That just made me think of that. And when it comes to this regime and Trump and everything, like right now on the news is him posting that picture of him being Jesus.
I can't even with that picture.
And the amount of memes.
I thought I looked like a doctor.
No, he didn't.
Doctor
he's a fucking liar.
Me. He's totally
also
a liar.
AI does not create that picture if you say, look, make me look like a doctor. AI will make that picture when you say, make me look like Jesus.
Yeah.
But anyway, the amount of memes and the internet
incredible.
Is so funny. It's just people making fun of him.
Yes.
And I'm like, that's our way to fight back in a lot of ways. It's like, you're like, you think you're in control here and you look like a fucking idiot.
Yes. And your wounds are so clear, right? I mean, that's the thing.
So clear.
And I think it is showing us, and to your point about being a young country, I think it is showing us that, we still have a lot of wounds. We're a country that was started, we had a bumpy start, we forced people out of their lives and homes, and we forced them through torture and pain and fear to build this country for us. And we built this country because we left having a tantrum. We didn't want to listen to daddy anymore. We were leaving, and we're not going to let you tell us what to do. And so we came here, and we still love to talk about freedom. And yet we've evolved with industrialists at the helm and capitalism. And now the freedom that most people seem super excited about actually doesn't really look like freedom to me. It's the freedom to choose which gray SUV you prefer and which shitty fast food you prefer. It's like, okay, and look, I will be very clear. I am very, very grateful that I was born in this time, in this country, and there is freedom for me to have pursued advanced degrees, to pursue a marriage where I am one of two human beings who are together in a marriage and run a home, where no one forced me to be circumcised as a female, where no one forces me to have sex, where I can sit here and talk to you about those men that might have acted inappropriately, but that's as far as they got, because I had the freedom to be like, are you fucking kidding me right now? Get your dick off me, dude. You're gross. And they left, right? There's something there that is very powerful, and I do not take that for granted. And I think also that the youthfulness of this country is, I think, very core to what we're talking about here. And you're right. I think we feel that, that might be, or I would imagine really is a big part of that duality that I feel, right? Am I a good girl who's nice and I'm just the mom who's soft and the friend who's soft and I just love everyone? Or am I the rage monster who will come at you with a baseball bat if you look at me sideways or you talk shit to my kid, right? Like, that's, I don't have to, it turns out, actually, I am both because that's happening. It's all in here. And there's also a lot of other things, right? I can be, very impulsive. I can be very pragmatic. I can be very quiet and listen very well, or I can be super excited and talk over everyone because I just really want to be heard. And, I'm complicated and nuanced because I'm a human. And I think we might be, as a culture, just stumbling into that moment of recognition. And right now it looks divisive, right? And I think even for us, like, talking about the feminine and masculine of it all, right? Talking about that, like, maybe we are entering into a phase where we're going to start to realize it doesn't have to be, Portland or Salt Lake City. It's just, and we can hold it all.
And it's okay if it's okay if Salt Lake City isn't the place. It's okay if Portland isn't the place, and it's okay to go somewhere else. I think it's just very natural and very human. I mean, tribes all over have had their different cultures, and I think we're just really young and figuring it out. Like, we're so young. Reading the Westerns I've been reading and things lately, I'm like, this was like my grandparents.
I know.
My grandparents' age, that this is so new.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do here is kind of a big experiment, and we're doing it in a modern time with technology, and we're all just trying to figure it out. I also am thinking about the Enneagram right now, which people who've listened to the show might know I love the Enneagram. If you're familiar with the Enneagram, this is great. But I was listening to a podcast about the Enneagram, and she was saying that as you get older and as you do your work and you heal and you go to therapy and whatever, you will begin to integrate parts of all types. And it's about, because each of us are a whole.
Yeah.
So when you integrate all types into your personality, then maturity is knowing when to wield the tool or the power of each type. So that 8 is that anger, the 9 is the peacekeeper, and the 7 is the enthusiast. Like, even when you were just talking about, like, sometimes I'm like just fun and extroverted and want to have a party, and sometimes I want to rage, and sometimes I want to, do art and be moody or whatever it is. It's like, where do we just kind of knowing when to pull out each tool. And like, I'm a 6, so I can think about every worst case scenario that could possibly happen to me.
I know.
It's not a great way to live, but it makes me a fucking great nurse. So I wield that at work.
Point. That is
I wield it at work.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, what's all the worst case scenarios that could happen to you after this surgery? I'm going to think about all of them, and it makes me a really great nurse, but I don't want to bring that power into my personal life because it will eat me alive.
Oh my God.
So it was a really interesting way to think about it.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, me too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've been really getting that a lot from my astrology recently. It's like, stop. Even in this conversation, I feel like I'm always qualifying, right? It's like I'm almost always just wanting to apologize for the parts of me that don't feel just easily accepted. And I think that's that codependency. That's that cultural influence, right? That's that me who's still learning how to care for myself, right? So that I can come to the table fully with a cup full. That there's the, I don't even know if this relates to my Enneagram sign. I'm a 4, and all I really know about that is that I'm a drama queen. But there's a certain power there that my astrological chart has been kind of pushing me toward, of just being willing to step into who you are and share it, and be okay with the fact that, like, it's an offering to the people that it's the right fit for. Yeah. And anybody else, that's okay. Just let it go. Like, that need to qualify, that need to apologize, that's just energy I don't need to spend. Like, if I hurt someone's feelings directly, yes, absolutely. Like, take that moment, apologize. That is not my intention. And I have definitely, like anybody, and I've had my feelings hurt before. And that's just the reality of being human. But that there's something about just being who you are that,
Yeah.
I think this moment is really calling for. And to the point of the beginning of this conversation, I think that is really core to some of this work that we're exploring of like you authentically, no matter where you live, no matter what you do with your hair, that energy showing up is the offering. And same for all of us, right? So maybe where we live and all of that is going to have an effect, and it's certainly going to have an effect on how we feel. But there's a moment happening now where awareness is growing around, we are all one, we are all the same, and each of us is slight variation of that same. Every single one of us is different and the same at the same time.
And
So,
own it.
own
Yeah,
it.
and owning
Yes.
it. Like, I think that's some of the medicine of a city like Portland. Because
Yeah.
in the United States, Portland is probably, I would say, one of the most controversial cities in terms
Yeah.
of politically, in terms of on the more liberal side, the more,
Yeah.
that, but they're not trying to be the city for everyone.
No.
There's that energy there of like, love me or hate me.
Right.
This
Take it
is
or leave
me.
it.
Take it
Yeah.
or leave it. And if it's for you, great. You will be welcomed here. You will feel like home here. And if it is not, you are going to feel very uncomfortable here. Very uncomfortable.
Yes.
And potentially we will be a little aggressive towards you.
Yeah.
And so maybe your place is Austin.
Yeah.
And it's, the cowboy boots and the hats and music and
Probably
that's
more
your
bras.
place. Like more bras, maybe some Botox. I've never been to Austin. But yeah, just like I think the more that each of us can be unapologetically ourselves
Yeah.
and even potentially move to places that we just feel accepted, it's just kind of like a great migration of, creating a culture. We're a new country. We're creating our cultures.
Yeah.
And just permission to do that. And another thing I was thinking about while you were talking was The Handmaid's Tale, which is one of my favorite shows. And talk about rage of women. They capture so
crushed me.
beautifully the
couldn't
book
watch the
and
show.
the show. The show captured so powerfully the rage of oppressed women and the power behind that rage to become straight up warriors for a rebellion. And like rage is powerful, rage is beautiful, rage is needed. It's knowing, I think, for all of the gifts where and when to focus it and on who.
Always the balance. I know.
Yeah.
I know. Well, and what was coming up for me when you were talking is inclusivity. I think for us in building Modern Sacred and having these conversations, we talk a lot about collaboration versus competition and inclusivity versus exclusivity. Exclusivity is another defense mechanism. It's a safe place. I would argue it's more of a masculine energy than a feminine energy, and I'm sure that it has its place. But in most modern settings, I'm finding for myself, collaboration is much more powerful and much more full of potential for us as a collective and even individually. I mean, you and I coming together and recognizing we were doing similar work and doing it together. It's like Dolores Cannon says, it's two lights shine bright, but two lights together, it's not just double. It's magnified on a different level. And I think that's the power of collaboration, and that inherently has to be inclusive, right? And inclusivity is a part of this conversation that I think is a little more tricky because I think that, if you're someone who's just flying the MAGA flag and is like, anti-science, even though you drive a modern vehicle and watch television and, you want all the things, right? Like, I think that you're coming into a place like Portland or Denver, or you're coming into my house and it's like, we got to stop right there. Like, what you are representing is just so far different, right? But if we are looking at evolving as a species, right? Some of this primitive, some of this like tribal has to fall away. Like we're entering into a world now where we're more interconnected than ever. I mean, you go back not that long and it wasn't really possible for us to just leave where we came from. That was a way, way bigger venture than it is now. You know, now it's doable. Everybody does it. Everybody moves, everybody travels, all these things. And we take it for granted. And I think that there's something about, for myself, challenging myself to be as inclusive as I can, and something like deep rage and something like deep kumbaya, it's exclusive, right? And I have to be aware of that, like the messiness of just saying I'm holding all these things at the same time, and just that's what that is, and the take me or leave me, but in a way that is an offering rather than a fuck you, feels like it's kind of heading towards that inclusivity, but it feels very challenging right now because, you know, there does feel like an either or there of like either you fit in this area or you don't. And if you don't, then we're going to be kind of like, ugh, like, bye, you know, and then it's like, well,
it's more
what are we
assimilation
doing there? Right. Like, so I don't know. I just wonder with some of this stuff. And I think when we're talking about things like this she economy idea of like this insecurity that has kind of been built into us foundationally from growing up in this system, in this world, in this country at this moment, you know, that's something that I feel like can be an antidote to that. But I don't always know how to hold that space and how to introduce that, because I don't always feel like I'm accomplishing it myself, right? If I were being truly inclusive, I would probably be less self-deprecating and I would probably be less extreme, because I would be able to say, oh, darling, you're angry right now, right? Are you hungry? The same that I do with my son. Are you hungry? Are you tired? Do you need to just go outside and just shake it off, scream it out, run it out? Like, you're a human being. You're full of chemicals and they're fully reacting all the time. Like, how do we deal with that? And I think that is something that keeps coming up for me, is when we're talking about healing these wounds, addressing these wounds, how can we do it in a way that is continuing to lean toward inclusivity and collaboration? And I think we talk about that in the sense of the masculine, feminine energy too, right? Like that's less a gendered thing and more of an energetic thing. We don't want to get rid of the masculine. We just want to rebalance it with the feminine. But we have to be conscious.
It's such a hard question. Like, what's inclusivity and what's allowing poor behavior?
Seriously, and what's codependence, right?
Yeah. Just where our country's at right now, politically, energetically, where our world is at with extraction and capitalism, alongside people like wonderful Julie, shout out Julie, building an urban farm and making her own plum wine and being a wound care nurse to the people in her community. Like, there is beauty alongside all of this, like, corruption and taking and extraction. It's just such a hard time to be a human. I feel like most times throughout history have been hard times to be a human. Because if you didn't have all the cultural political stuff, well, you're going to be dead at 40 from like appendicitis. And it's just, it's hard to know how to balance it all, but I really like what you are saying in terms of the call is coming from inside the house. Is diversity internally, and just like, I'm a diverse being. I can be rageful, I can be peaceful, I can be sassy as hell, I can be a peacemaker and hear everybody's side. It does usually tell me what I'm feeling and how I need to take care of myself, which are two of the most powerful questions, is what do I feel, what am I feeling, and what do I need? And just starting there. But it's there's no answers.
No.
It's just
and even if there
life
are,
as a human,
they change. The answer right now is not going to be the answer in a couple hours. I mean, that's one of the trickiest parts about this. And I say this to my son all the time. I'm like, I'm the adult here. I'm the mom. I'm the parent. You're the kid. There are certain things that are expected of me to be able to hold constantly. And I'm up for the job of that. And I'm also going to tell you, and I'm going to be real transparent, this stuff is shifting for me minute by minute, hour by hour, the same as you, because it is the way that we are built as creatures. And I just have developed over these decades on the planet through experience how to hold that and let it happen a little more gracefully, how to stay ahead of some of it. But that doesn't mean that much. I mean, today coming in here, I had my big workout this morning. I'm pumped and I'm fucking angry, man. And I'm like, and it's like, I can feel it. And I can feel the shame that has been put on me my whole life of people just being like, girl, calm down. Like you're shutting me down. You're triggering me, and it's like, and I want to hear that so bad, but it feels so personal to me. It feels like dismissal. And I think that is this, man, I feel like I've been talking about this a lot this episode, but it's like that, that is like the challenge, right? It's like, that's where I am today. So then hold it, allow it, and don't feel sorry about it, right? Don't go back to that story of the person that told you that they were triggered by you. Just, that was them. That was then. It's over, right? Yeah. Just keep on kind of cycling through the feelings. But
yeah, we're holding a lot. And like I said, might not feel good for you internally, but I love raging Chelsea. I think she gives me a lot of permission. And some people, they love anxious Abby, because
absolutely,
it'll be like, oh, like Abby can get really, yes. She makes me feel safe. She makes me feel less crazy for the worst case scenarios I play out. Like we were at the airport and there was all these people that said, woo, woo, outside. And Zach was like, oh, I wonder what's going out. And I was like, it's probably a mass shooter. And Zach was like, wow, that's where your brain goes. I'm like, yes, that's where my brain goes. Your brain did not go there? What do you mean? Like, where did your brain go? And he was like, I thought maybe something cool's happening. Like, maybe there's a celebrity or something fun. I'm like, no, my brain goes to the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And that can be a real downer.
But
it can be a real downer when it's uncontrolled.
Okay,
but
fair.
Other times it can be
if it
comforting.
had been a mass shooter, you would have already had a plan, and you would have gotten him to the place where you would be the most safe, and you would have
I tell Zach all the time. People will say something happened and we'll whatever, and I'll say that would never happen to me.
Yeah.
Like he was like, okay, in Portland, you're going to have to be really careful about when you open your door that you don't hit a biker.
Yeah.
And I was like, that will never happen to me. I always
checking that rear
look.
view.
I always
Every
look.
time.
That's not going to happen. And that's the benefit of my type and my skills is I'm a good person to have around, when it comes to problem solving or thinking about things that might happen. I'm a great nurse.
Yeah.
But it can also eat me alive, so it's just knowing how to wield all of that. I don't know how it all connects to the she economy that we were talking about in the beginning, but it's got to connect somewhere.
Dived deep on our own insecurities in this episode.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our insecurities.
But I feel like that's extremely relevant because it's going to look different for all of us. But the fact that we're even aware of it and talking about it shows how entrenched we've been in it and how we're attempting to shine light on it through these conversations. And how I think we came to something beautiful here in the end, that like better, worse, dark, light, all the different aspects of our nuanced, humanness, when we come together, that's a pretty powerful team. If we need some protection, my anger can rise up and help with that. If we need some nurturing, my soft side can come in. If we need some, planning and awareness about our surroundings, you can be there to do that. If we need some tender care, you can be there to do that. Like it's this beautiful convergence of what we offer. But you and I and all of us have to be willing to be honest with ourselves and each other about the nuanced beings and offerings that we have, good and bad, right? And whatever that means. I mean, that's good and bad. That's subjective, and it's also a, man-made construct. But, we have
it's leaving room for differences too, which is another lesson that's been coming up throughout what I read or just popping up places, is to leave room for differences, both on the large scale with culturally our country having so many divisions and differences, but also like person to person. You know, Zach's going to be a little bit more of a critique, a critical, you know, this could be better, that could be better. And that's beautiful. He makes a kick-ass camper van and
absolutely
builds beautiful things. And he's an excellent handyman. And he just does beautiful work because he wants it to be perfect. And also that can be hard to be around. But leaving room for differences. It's easy for me to just want him to be like me, or for me to just want to find some guy who's just like me.
Right.
But then they'll have differences. And me and you, like, we've talked about how I hate driving.
Yeah.
And you are like, I want to drive. I'm like, you will never have to fight me for driving.
I'm defensive and aggressive. Are you kidding me? Yeah. And I'm a control freak. So.
And control freak. I'm like, I absolutely hate being in the driver's seat. I would love it for you to drive every time.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful because we're different.
Yeah.
We're not going to be fighting because we both want control in the driver's seat. Yes. I'm like, I will give it up freely forever. So like leaving room for those differences can be great, and maybe they can be challenging in different ways. But I don't know, leaving room for our differences within ourselves, differences with our relationships, differences culturally. If Salt Lake wants to be the plastic surgery capital of the world, let it. But I don't have to live here and be a part of it.
Absolutely.
And how can I love them from afar? From Portland, I just try not to be too critical of it.
Yes.
It's like, it's not for me. I don't get it. I think it's a waste. I don't like how they're watering the lawns of the golf courses. I think there's a lot of ethical shit there. But also, like, they're going to have to figure that out for themselves when the water runs out, because it is running out. And, like, that's not my problem. So,
no.
Something you love.
Yeah. Absolutely. And there's something in that acceptance that feels very inclusive. And I think that starting with that internal call, you know, like that is the work. That is what we're having this conversation for, because throughout this hour and some odd minutes, I have done a little bit more healing in that regard. Right. And I hopefully am going to take that with me and maybe give someone else permission in my interactions with them on an energetic level to hold all of that. Right. It's, I could have spent this entire time pretending like that didn't exist for me, and kind of stayed stuck. And there's something about, as messy as it is and how triggering as it may be, that is what we're doing here. And I think that's powerful. So,
and to be seen and loved for who you are.
Yeah.
Like,
and to see and love the people getting the plastic surgery, right? That's their journey.
And just different ways of being. Like, I'm thinking of Lord of the Rings because I watched it recently. There's Gimli, who's angry and like bloodthirsty, and there's Legolas, and like very calm, very quiet, very, perfect face and hair. And it's like they have, the dwarves and the elves have been at war for all of that little kingdom, whatever, in that fantasy world, because they're so different. And the beauty between their relationship in that movie is that these very two different beings can come together and create a friendship because they leave room for differences. And like, that's where I get a lot out of Rageful Chelsea, and we need some rage in our society. I just bathe you in acceptance for who you are. And if you're raging out, I'm never like bummed, but I'm bummed for you because I know it drains your energy. But I'm not like, I wish Chelsea was different, because I don't wish that you were different. I think it's one of the best things about you to be around. It gives me a lot of permission to get a little upset, to flip someone off that cut me off. Like, it's okay to get Abby. You can get a little upset. It's okay.
You're a person.
And
you matter.
It gives me permission, and I wouldn't change it. So
I love you. Thank you.
It's just how we harness it.
I feel this exact same way. I love it when your neurotic side comes out around stuff where you're like, okay, but what about this? And have we done this? I'm like, I hadn't even thought of that. I'm just barreling on, and I'll just use my anger to defend me when I fuck it up later. Like, oh, that's not a great way to go. Like, we can do better, and together we do better, right? I think there's that acceptance of the whole of who each other really is, and who we are, right? That's the shift. That's the change. And I think, just to bring it back as we're at the end here, when we are talking about this ingrained insecurity and whether or not we should do these things, those are very personal, very human decisions that we each have to make. And that is all okay, no matter which way you go. But the acceptance within ourselves that can then splash out onto those around us, I think is a big, big part of the healing that we're all kind of looking to wrap our arms around right now. At least anybody who's been with us for this long in this conversation is trying to do that, because we want to be present with this life and with this moment, this existence, and for whatever reason that we're here and we're all doing this together. So there is that energetic shift, right? The vibration, the frequency feels like it gets higher when we come to that place. So
yeah. And it's part of what makes the United States of America the most diverse place.
So diverse.
Is we got a lot going on. We have a lot going on here. We have lots of different people from different places and different cultures forming. And, you know, there's a lot of problems with that as well. We're figuring it out.
Yeah,
we are.
Yeah.
We will not figure it out in my lifetime, I don't think, but it's a long scale.
Yeah.
And I think the real topics that we covered today is assimilation, diversity, and inclusion. Like, when do you assimilate? When do you say I'm different in this way? And when do you just accept that's diversity versus assimilation and inclusion?
Yeah.
And there's a quote from Richard Rohr, who is a Franciscan father, who we really love his books. He talks about transcend and include. We transcend from one way of consciousness into another, but we so often then turn around and say, you idiots.
Totally.
Down there where I just came from.
Yes. Look at me.
And how could you not know? You know, all the things that I know, even though that's where I just was last year. So he talks about, yes, transcend and then include. And that, I think, is what we want with this podcast as well, is we talk about a range of topics where people might say, I never thought about, you know, the impact of my 3 for 5 panties. Yeah. That's something I didn't know. That's transcending and including, is having the conversation, trying to be inclusive to different people, but also there are going to be people who listen to this podcast and say, that is not for me.
Totally.
And that's okay. That's okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I'm like, it's probably not for you.
Did I listen to Charlie Kirk's podcast? No, I did not.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
You know, that's okay. That's many people did, and that spoke to them. So, you know, that I think is the inclusion and the acceptance. Yeah. Right? It's like,
and that's feminine.
We accept that they exist too, and they matter too. So, man, I would not want to be on this journey of acceptance and inclusivity and messy humanness with anyone else. I love you so much.
Same. I love you too, girl.
Conversation. And thank you to anyone who joined us. And we will be back with you next time. Excited to keep the conversation going. Okay.
Rage out.
Lots of love. Rage out. Woo! All right. Bye. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Modern Sacred Women's Work podcast. We're so glad you came.
If you'd like to learn more about Modern Sacred, our offerings, book clubs, and women's events, you can go to modernsacred.com or follow us on Substack.
We were so happy you were here with us.
I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks for listening.